So what's good? Put 'em up. And if you ready for the tape, then raise up. Organize the hood, get your weight up. No matter if you hustling, banging, riding, grinding. So what's good? Had enough? Cause we got the firepower and we calling your bluff. We got the hood on our backs and it's all of us and none. So if you down to ride, then follow the drum. I'm fresh out the trenches, I lived in the jungle. I'm back to this
homefulness, a poor people-led, indigenous people-led land revolution. Ain't nobody can take this shit away from us. We walk in the path with the man's paper and with our own hearts and spirits leading us. But anyway, we're filming Deep East TV, and we have our brothers and sisters in the room, which is on the street on MacArthur. We're a community where a lot of folks are dealing with violence on different levels, pro-life terror, and then the proliferation of these corporate guns that are so easily available. I wonder why to black and brown young ones. So just first introduce yourself and what's up?
My name is Askari Awari, Sergeant at Arms of the Black Riders Liberation Party, New Generation Black Panther Party. You know, I live in this community. I just recently moved over here, but I grew up not too far from here on 84th and First. This community really suffers a lot from black on black and brown on brown violence, as well as black on brown and brown on black violence. But, you know, rather than heighten the contradictions within that, because we really understand that, you know, black people and brown people don't commit crimes out of nowhere. It doesn't come out of thin air. It's not some hereditary disposition that we're born with because we were born in America rather than in our own indigenous land. It's really an effect of neo-colonialism. And through my, you know, through experience in this community, I'm quite versed in the fact that the police, as you see right here, play a large part in a lot of the beef in this community. Recently, I saw a flyer from Youth Uprising. By the way, I put things on blast. I'm not a liberal. I don't believe in liberalism. I believe combat liberalism is infectious, and not only is it infectious, it would stop a revolution from actually being successful. At least one that's actually a revolution and not a reform or concession. So I saw a flyer from Youth Uprising in collaboration with the police department to buy guns back from the community. So now what this does, right, is this manipulates the elder generation, because you don't really have a lot of the younger people, especially the younger lumpen proletariat, considering that our generation isn't a generation of working class people like the 60s. This is a generation of lumpen proletariat. We don't usually rely on the police, and no matter what tribal beef you have in the community, there's one understood fact that the police are the enemy.
That's right.
And understanding this, we also understand that the people who rely on the police are the elders who rightfully feel terrorized in their own community. So you have to look at both sides of this. You know, I'm a dialectist. I look at both sides. And in this, what this means is this calls for an obligation for the revolutionary vanguard to be the faction between the elders and the youngsters to bridge that gap, because the police force isn't here to serve the people. It's not here to serve the elders. It's not here to serve the youngsters. Only good pig is a dead pig or a pig that makes its quota. And that pig makes its quota not in Piedmont or San Leandro, which is right up the street. That pig makes its quota right here. Particularly on MacArthur Boulevard, where they stay busy. Police department's right up the street. Considering this, right, so the issue with me is the call for people to turn their guns in for, what, $200. This offended me to the extent that I believe anyone that tells young black men to disarm themselves and not hold weapons and to put guns down is a criminal. I believe this for the same reason Malcolm believed this. I believe this for the same reason any revolutionary would believe this. And it's to the extent that it's a criminal act to attack a people and tell them to put their guns down. It's a criminal act to tell a person who's being attacked to put his gun down or not to defend himself. And what ultimately needs to happen, and I call this, I'm pointing this out not just to put Youth Uprising on blast for collaborating with the enemy, collaborating with the person who makes who continues to build the 90% of the prison population being people of color, who perpetuates this and assists this. I'm not just saying that to put them on blast. I'm saying that to put us as revolutionaries on blast, because we have to become involved in the same communities we speak of. It's only one thing. It's only one thing to have a class analysis and only deal with the intellectual black and brown masses as if those would be the people to free us alone. It's pretentious. That's why, Cuba got liberated, but there's still racism, because there's a place of racial analysis, and people don't want to have a full class analysis because they would understand that the black community breaks down into many factions. Not everybody in the black community is working class, like I said before, and more so not in this generation. A lot of us are lumping, and realizing that you can't have a revolution. How are you going to liberate just the petty bourgeoisie black?
Can I ask you, first of all, thank you for coming out to DP's TV, and also as a melanin challenged daughter of a strong black Indian mama without whom there would be no me, but when me and her were sleeping in the car right outside of here, hard hotel, and we could get a few bits together. But I do live like my colonizer dad, and so I live with this white privilege and white skin privilege, and I use it to navigate the white supremacist system of which you totally speak the truth about. But also, when we're coming out here, DB's TV, and those of us who already been here, already know that our, as you pointed out beautifully, our elders are in fact afraid, right? So a lot of our houseless elders and our people on the calles, on the street, like me and Mama were, and like so many of us who are doing homefulness here, there's this reality of these guns. Like last week, I don't know if you knew, but there was like a cowboy type shooting straight up, which I would still say, frankly, because I believe the gentrification is part of all of this shit. I believe that a lot of that is police inspired in a real way, like they were actually seeding it. But still, that said, and I have a deep analysis about that relationship with cops and you know what I'm saying. But that said, then the next day when we had our meal, because we do free meals here all the time, just whatever we can put together, these elders came up to us and said, well, God listened to our prayers because the police descended on a whole building that none of our babies were even wanted to go outside in because the guns were hidden under the cars, and they descended on and they took these 8 guys away. And God listened to our prayers. And I'm just sitting there holding all of this, holding the knowledge, the consciousness, the decolonization of which we speak, right? But at the same time trying to hear and feel and hold these elders who are terrorized, most of whom are not no motherfucking middle class elders. Most of them don't even have houses. They're out here on the street. And so I totally feel you on the poverty pimpology systems, the non-profit industrial complex of youth uprising, and don't even get me started on the rest of them. So I'm with that bullshit. That don't even make sense. But some messages that are just simple for some folk to hear about the guns themselves. Like we're thinking about a healing. We're thinking about this man, a no gentrification-free zone right here, and also a police-free zone.
Okay, well, the police have gentrified the community itself. I pointed out, I pushed it on blast. There's a pig that stays right here. You zero in right here across the street in that brown building right above me. He stays right above me. He's very aware of my revolutionary actionist standpoint, and he's aware that I don't like the pigs, and he harasses me He's also, before he knew this, put me on that there's 4 other police officers that stay in this general radius. Okay, so give you another instance, when that building was shot up right there with the 7.62 rounds that had to have come out of some type of carbine or a semi-automatic weapon were shot, there were at least 50 rounds that were unloaded. Nobody showed up. Next morning, there were children playing with the bullet shells. Not too long ago, right after that, across the street from the Hoover House, the same thing happens. This is the indictment that's been going on since they crashed the quote-unquote burnout family gang from 82nd over here, which were really just rappers, just happen to maybe do a little shit to get by. I don't even think that was true for most of them. And they just wrap us all up in these boxes. And what they do is they organize these community watch meetings with the elders in the community, and they tarnish us. They demonize us to our own parents and the elders. You know what I mean? Youth Uprising is responsible for a lot of the organizing on that part. But I'll say this. In order to actually give black people an understanding, or elder black people an understanding of how these are their children they're sending to jail, give them a realistic solution, you have to first attack the situation. The police are pretending to attack the situation, but that still does not change the fact that us as revolutionaries, we have to grow some balls enough to do Not trying to toot no horns, because Black Riders ain't the only organization that takes this position to come actually talk to these people who are shooting each other and tell them to their face that if you got an AK and a 50-round drum full of 7.62s to kill your brother, I don't see how you don't have that same weapon to resist police brutality and fascist attacks on the black community. In fact, I just take the approach. I tell them like my Elder Freeman from the LA chapter would tell people when they campaign for the Black Panther Party, if you don't feel like you have the obligation to protect black men, women, and children within this community using that same weapon that you kill black men, women, and children, then you are a coward, and I'm gonna put it out in the forefront, you know what I mean? And that's how we've been able, that's how I was recruited, you know what I mean? It took for somebody to tell me and pull my damn card and call me a bitch motherfucker because I was ready to go gung-ho with everybody else and wasn't ready to go gung-ho with the pigs. And that's the position we gotta take, you know what I mean? And when the community starts seeing you do that, the community's gonna support you. The community will at least they might not fully support you, but at least they'll even be susceptible asking, well, what can we do?
I'm fresh out the trenches, I lived in the jungle. I'm back to this place where these prisoners rumble.